Good morning, everyone. Hello from me to you, and welcome to the full moon total lunar eclipse, which is coming to its fulfillment, its kind of peak at the moment, or very shortly, actually. I think we're just a little bit ahead of it. We can't see it here, um, very much in Europe, but I think there are lots of parts of the world where you can see it. Sometimes I look at these maps. You might see them. This is kind of shape of the eclipse portal like that, or with a globe strip behind it. And because a lot of the Earth, a lot of the world is covered in water, our wonderful oceans. Anytime the eclipse is over the ocean, and you think that's a great place to see it, you're only going to see it if you're in a boat or a plane or something going over. Now, just to say, behind me, I have not sprouted wings out of my ears. But I want to show you something. I want to talk about another influence in this particular eclipse. Okay, so um, maybe we talk about eclipses and Saron cycles and things like this, and how to understand the connection between, oh goodness me, the connection between them. Yes, we tend to get a couple of eclipse seasons each year. This is the first one this year. The next one begins, I think, 12th of August. And there are usually two or three solar lunar eclipse combinations in between them. Okay, so what to say about it? Everyone looks at where the moon and the sun are at an eclipse, and it is such a phenomenal event in the skies when you look up and you see it. When you see one, you never forget, I don't think, what they look like and how you felt. I remember the first time I saw one. I'd gone with some friends. I was in my 20s and I was driving a converted BMC ambulance, a big white ambulance. And I worked as a nurse, and I thought that was kind of cool that I had my own ambulance. Wow. Anyway, we piled everyone in the back of it, and we'd gone up to to a little spot on the downs in Bristol, and we had to go down through some woodland, and we were actually coming down over the cliff into the gorge that overlooks the Avon Gorge, and we had this rock plinth. And I imagine maybe people had gathered on this very spot to do this very thing, and we watched as we saw um, the shadow, the umbra of the Earth against the moon moving across. And this is what you see. Okay, the reason why the moon turns a sort of reddish color at this time is because of light from the sun that has passed through the Earth's atmosphere and has illuminated the moon by infraction, I believe is the correct term. It's been infracted and kind of drawn in, and it has this earthly hue to it. Okay. And, of course, we like to talk about these things as blood moons. It sounds very dramatic, and eclipses are dramatic. They're unexpected. Why are they unexpected? Because we don't understand them. But also, there are forces within nature, and astrology doesn't create the force, but it describes it. It helps us to understand it. Yes. So there are forces in nature that are at play as part of an evolutionary process, not a sequence of joining up the dots and saying, well, if this happens and this happens and this happens, and there's all this stuff going on in the world at the moment, it's quite terrible. So before I go any further, if you are somewhere where this conflicts are happening, I do hope you're safe and those that you love and close to you. I don't know what I can do about these things other than to send my prayers and my love. Anyone going through any difficulties, yes. So, angelic wings aside, we're coming to that. The full moon, where's my hands left and right? Okay, the full moon. The moon is going to be in Virgo, and opposite in Pisces is the sun. Now, this is, for me, a really interesting axis in the chart as well. Because if you think Virgo, if you have maybe your sun sign is Virgo, or you have planets in Virgo, or you know someone who does, and you know how they like the details. Yes, and you've got to get it right and the facts. It's kind of like the truth in things. And it's a lovely mirror, all right, that the two of these archetypes, these two signs, look at each other. And Pisces is the archetype of dissolving and transcendence. So depending on where it is, it could be dissolved. It's been working to dissolve um, familiar, outdated. We've lived through it and worked as much as we can patriarchal archetypes. I've been talking in previous videos about Neptune and Saturn who've been moving through Pisces and now emerged into Aries. And we're starting to see what's being uncovered, what's being revealed, what's being loosened and allowed to let go. Let go. Remember, we're also removing Chinese astrology from the year of the snake into the fire horse. Okay. So much to say. But what I wanted to say is about this picture that's behind me. And I'm going to introduce an archetype that a lot of people run for the hills as soon as they hear it. Okay. Um, mm. And this is the archetype of Lucifer. Okay. So I'm going to move just to one side so we can see what my friend ChatGPT and I have been creating. Here, a beautiful angel. And through the mythology, Lucifer was God's favorite angel. Now remember, these terms, these references are drawn very much from the Judeo-Christian tradition, but the archetypes they talk about and the symbolism go much further back. Okay, this is just a recent remapping, recent in terms of a couple of thousand years and a bit more. So, Lucifer is said to have been God's or goddesses or gods, depending on your point of view or polarity, God's favorite angel. And it's said, as I understand it, that God tasked the archangels, the toppest ones, with the job of serving humanity. Okay. So you've got to remember, these guys were at the top, all right? They were probably, in the eyes of the other angels, if they looked at it, they were the closest ones to God, the most illuminated by God's light. They say pride comes before a fall. Perhaps pride facilitates the fall, and the fall is a necessary part of an evolutionary process because it creates a doorway. Yes, this thing at the bottom is the doorway. So it's said that Lucifer, who was known as the light bringer, it seems incongruous, doesn't it, when we think of this image that we have in popular culture about Lucifer being a dark entity, evil, and we equate Lucifer to this image, this idea of Satan, but they're different things. Lucifer relates to the original perception of the archetype, and Satan to a corrupted version, again, through the Judeo-Christian tradition, for all sorts of different purposes, education, times we've gone through, control of people, all of these things. So, what Lucifer as an archetype does is to illustrate where we are in terms of our journey with the two competing desires that we are born with. And we are born incarnating as souls in human form. Yeah, we tend to lose the idea, the remembering of who we are and where we came from and why we're here. But that's what we are. And there are two competing desires. The first is to separate from God, or from God consciousness, or Christ consciousness, or however you describe it. Yes? Because we want to have a human experience. If God had everything that God needed to be God and evolve, then there would be no need for any kind of change, I would imagine. So there's a reason. God is seeking something. And so the soul, which is a manifestation of God, okay, there are lots of details and images and ideas and philosophies and thoughts and things that go with all of this, but it's a manifestation of God. And so it has to kind of separate and begin to have an individualized identity at that stage anyway, which you could see as moving away from God, but being full of God or goodness. As the soul incarnates in human form, okay, there has to be a further separation. Otherwise, you can imagine the picture. We will have lots and lots, millions and millions of people running around saying to everyone, I am God, I am God, I am God. These are my sandals. You can take these. They are to be placed in a shrine, or you must follow me, or do this, or do that. And my voice has gone silly because it creates a very silly kind of environment. A silly environment because we do silly things, ungrounded things. We forget why we're here. We're full not of godness, but of our ego. So the first necessary requirement of an incarnation as a human being is to have an ego. Okay? If anyone says to you, I have no ego, that's their ego talking, right? Including me. If I ever said that, that would be my ego talking. And you have to have an ego to have a human experience. The second, so the first competing desire, which is separating from God, the soul incarnating as a human being, separating from the nourishing womb of the mother to be born and have independence and experience fear and terror and excitement and joy and love. And the second desire, of course, is to return to God. So we have these two desires, and we see them as the initiation and the fulfillment of the journey, the relationship of archetypes within the zodiac. So, what is the archetype of Lucifer showing us at this time, and why on earth am I talking about it? I'm going to come back in the front of the screen and I'm going to show you. The time of an eclipse, okay, the moon and thereby the sun, whether it's conjunct or in opposition relative to the earth. Okay, the moon has to be close to its own nodes. So, let me find, these are my new glasses. What do you think? Got them from the shop up the road. Okay. Dum 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 dum. Let me find this for you. As I have hidden it from myself. Here we go. We come back. Right. Okay. So here's what I'm talking about. We have the sun. So 11:37 Universal Time, Greenwich Mean Time. It's 11:11 now. If happy numbers fans, if you're a number fan, it's 11:11. So this is celestial alignment, angel talk. And oh, there's my cat Willow. Sun, moon. South node of the moon in Virgo, only 4 degrees away, yes? So the moon has to be close to the nodes for there to be an eclipse. Otherwise, the moon and the sun, which is the moon? This one, and the earth, which would be here, okay, would not be in a more or less straight line. The earth has to be in the middle of these two, and the astrology chart is geocentric, okay, not heliocentric. The sun isn't in the middle, the earth is in the center, and everything else is relative. And we look at things in terms of an ecliptic, all right? So the ecliptic is the apparent path that the sun takes across the sky, all right? The sun does not rotate around the earth. Hello, Willow. The earth rotates around the sun and the moon around the earth. Oh, it's a lot to take in, isn't it? Right, there's those wings behind my head again. I quite like that. So looking at the chart down here, they're only 4 degrees apart. And in the middle is this torch-like, with a star at the top, this torch-like glyph, which is the glyph for Lucifer. So Lucifer likes to illuminate for us, to bring light, because Lucifer is the archetype of the light bringer, right? And it represents light and dark. It holds both of those. It represents where we are on our journey from individualizing and having an egocentric individual experience. Okay? It's all about me, not the collective, and certainly not about God or spirituality or the soul. It's about me. Yes. Or for in your case, it's about you. And then the Sun and the North Node up here in Pisces. Yes. So we want to know with this particular eclipse, what is the combination of all of these influences trying to show you, to make visible for you? And that's all that it's about. I've been feeling these energies build up for a few days, and it has been really intense. And I've, uh, I've heard from a few people, sometimes one person to another, have you heard how so and so is and what's going on? Or someone will message me with my astrologer hat on or with my shaman's hat on to work with me that way. Because people are going through incredible crisis. And in a similar way, we see it mapped out in the global events in the world around us. Um, anyway, I think that's what I wanted to show you. That's what I wanted to tell you. There's so much more to this archetype. It can teach us so much more, but it's been given such a bad label, all right, for thousands of years. And we haven't been living here for thousands of years. Maybe our souls come and go. But when you're born, we're born into a family and a culture that holds familial and ancestral memories. And these days also, not just written down or spoken stories, but we have movies and these kinds of things that we engage with, and we use them to create our own idea about what these archetypes and what these energies mean. And then we put it in a box and label it on the outside, and that's what Lucifer means, and that's what God means, and that's what angels are, and this is what astrology is, and the rest of it. Anyway, if you're able to watch the eclipse today, I do hope you enjoy it. I hope you have a really good view. I'm looking forward to seeing some video and some photos um, as people post them over the World Wide Web. Isn't that amazing? World Wide Web. Okay. So Lucifer is here. It's archetypical energy. And just shifting to the other side. And what we want, you know, is to ask, what do I need to see about myself in order to step through this doorway? Yes. So I'll leave you with that for the moment. Um, God bless and see you all again soon. Much love. Bye for now.